All right, well, I'll get started. I'm probably a couple minutes early, but that's okay. They'll just give us more time for questions at the end. I'm Rob Jellison, coach of the Heartland Archery Program, elementary, middle school, high school. This is my grand finale year. I'm kind of stepping down. Just going to take on more of a director's role because being at practice, as you guys know. How many of you are brand new? Like this is going to be your first year coaching archery. So there's a few who you don't know. But say goodbye to your life for as long as you plan on coaching. And for me, it was the last 15 years. So I'm going to reintroduce myself to my family and just kind of be a director of the program. I've got a great staff that's going to carry on the tradition, hopefully. But it's been a good ride. And I was talking to someone in the hallway, I can't remember who it was at the time, and I said, it was amazing to me that when we started in 2006, we didn't have anything like this. It was just, you just figure it out. You got 5 targets, that was cool. You know, 11 bows, 1 left-hander, that's sweet. You know, and you're like, wow, what do we do with this? And there was a lot of mistakes made. I think the first tournament we went to, we came in like 137th place, and we had the best time of our life. We ran the biggest tailgate party in the parking lot ever. It was unbelievable. And the kids had a riot. We were like cornhole champs out there, and we didn't really care about the archery aspect of it. Oh my gosh, look at tech! Oh, it's there. Oh, hey, I guess I didn't start. Oh, now I lost this. Listen, I'm not a tech person, I'm a science teacher. Okay. All right, there we go. Getting started. So real quick, just to finish up about our program. A lot of people, they always want to thank me, and I think that's really nice, but it's not me, it's about the kids. I think that's why we're doing what we do. I'm a school teacher, I teach science. Our PE teacher didn't want anything to do with it. I walked in and I said, man, you can do archery in PE class. He's like, no, that ain't happening. I was never a tournament archery guy. I just like put meat on the table for my family, right? I shot things that tasted good. But then like we can actually like score these things and make a competition, I'm all in. So it's been a quick ride. We've had some good success, and I think the competition is just going to keep going and going and going, especially because of programs like this, right? Like I'm an open book. Ask me a question, I'm 100% honest with you. And I know the same thing about these guys, the same thing about these guys. Like we share, everyone wants to know what the secret is. Do it, you know, be passionate about it, and if you're passionate about it, the kids will follow suit. All right, so my topic, I guess they asked me to talk about how to coach mixed groups, and I've done it different ways. So the first thing is you got to build excitement, and I just left a class across the hallway, and they were talking about how do we get, he said, I think the gentleman said he had 50 archers, but when it came time to go to a tournament, only 8 kids would show up. Like, that's a serious problem. But he's brand new and he's trying to start in the year of COVID, which nothing was normal. So you got to give the guys some grace period. But like, if you got 50 kids involved, they should all be there on tournament day. Because if they're not, then the excitement's not there. So make sure you have some excitement about it. And how do we do it in our district? You got to teach it during the school day. So being a science teacher, it works for me. I rotate through all with my science teachers who aren't certified. They send me their kids. So all the kids in my middle school get it through me. And then my district's lucky enough to let me take days off to go certify the high school and the elementary schools. So it works out, and I build the excitement because I'm kind of crazy. Connect the sports to the curriculum. How many PE teachers do I have in here? It's easy for you. It's written for you. Congratulations. How many science teachers do I have in here? Yeah!
Am I the only one?
One other crazy person. So like kinetic and potential energy, the human body systems working together, the 5 senses. You just have to be creative and you can do it. You get every student involved. You know, that video they showed in the opening ceremonies is pretty awesome, right? But every single kid can do this sport. If you believe that, then get them all involved. Don't let anyone sit out. Encourage and focus on their strengths. Get certified instructors to help. I have 4 assistants and 6 secondary assistants. That's 10 people behind me. That's a lot, right? When I started, it was just me. If those hands that went up early said it's your first year, my advice to you is get as much help as you possibly can, especially to get started. And I'll be honest with you, the first 2 people that helped with me, they were tournament archers, right? they were the worst coaches I ever had. Because they weren't kid-oriented. Not because they were tournament archers. They were great archers. They just weren't kid minds. They had no kid mindset, and they were very brass. So take what help you can get, but then watch very carefully. And you have to be quick to remove the people that are not correct and get in the people that are correct. My staff is very diverse. I've got a couple teachers. I've got a couple tournament archers. I've got a preacher. I've got a class clown. I got a builder, which is very important for equipment stuff. Trust me, things are going to break. He fixes everything. So just have a very men and women for sure, because there's some girls that aren't going to listen to me, but they're going to listen to Coach Simon, right? So get as much help as you can. How do we do it? To get the kids first, I run an after-school program called intro sessions. We start these usually in September and October. We'll get to about 200 kids, and right now he's like, seriously, 200 kids? How many in your whole district? 200 kids, right? So that'd be like his whole school coming for archery, which would be unbelievable. But we have 200 kids come. The rule for intro is you've never shot archery before for Heartland. No repeat archers can come to intro season. So that's 200 brand new kids that have never shot a bow and arrow. That builds some excitement right there because they're all brand new. They don't feel scared. They don't feel embarrassed because they don't know anything, just like all the other kids that are there. They also don't know anything. And it's the easiest way to teach someone. If they have never done it, they'll be the best archers you've ever had. Because they're not coming with the habits that they have from grandma and grandpa or dad and aunt and uncle, right? Or bad archery coaches. We offer it to all the schools in our district. We'll have mats. Hopefully you can get it in all your schools as well. But right now, if you're just the elementary PE teacher and that's all you have, that's great. But eventually those kids are going to go from elementary to middle school and they're going to wish they had archery. So try to talk to the teachers at the middle school to get that rolling. At the young ranges, obviously we focus on the 11 steps. As the kid gets older, at least in our district, everyone's different. I mean, I look at some of the elementary teams and I'm like, wow. I think, was there an elementary archer who shot 300 this year, a fifth grader? Did I read that correctly? I thought I read somewhere that a fifth grade student shot at 300, and I'm just like, that's unbelievable. But like, if in Heartland, we treat our elementary as like grassroots, right? Like they are green homes. They really don't. They've got a long ways to go. And then all of a sudden we get to like the middle school. Well, they're middle schoolers. They're weird, right? That's where I teach. I live with them 185 days of the year. And then when we get to high school, our goal is they better be competitive, right? By the time we hit the high school level, our goal is now to be competitive. You've had years and years and years to have fun, and now if you want to go on the state tournament team or the national tournament team, we're going to take the most competitive kids we can. We have to. It's very expensive to travel to these places, and we're competing against teams that are unbelievable, right? When we got started, it was all trig. And now, I mean, you just look at how many teams you can say are competitive. The list is easily, there's 10 to 15 teams that are going to walk away with this championship. And it's never a guarantee. But right now, it's probably one of 15 teams, right, that are right there for the taking. All right, why do you do the steps? We've heard about that. That's not my focus, but the 11 steps was a good one today, so go to that. But let's focus on the steps because that's what the kids need. Why is this thing not working? There we go. Isn't this fun? Mm-hmm. It's my ADHD. It makes me fly around things. All right. So, tryouts. How do we make, in our teams, first you got to decide how you're going to make your teams. If you're going to have multiple age groups to coach, how are you going to make these teams? A lot of coaches will say score. It's pretty simple. It's like running track. You're fast, you win. You're slow, you lose. So score might be up there, but notice it's the last thing I put on my list. It's the last thing I worry about. First thing is their attitude. If they have a great attitude, they're already in the driver's seat. If they have a lousy attitude, they're in the back seat. I'm not kicking them out of the car yet, but they're definitely in the back seat. Might have to put them in the trunk, but they're at least in the back seat. Coachability. I'm sure some of the coaches that are seasoned that have been here, you tell someone, hey, I really want you to focus on that dead hand release. I want you to let that finger slide out of your hand when you execute the shot setup. And they still pluck the string. And you're like, no. And you repeat it with them, and you show them. You're like, literally, when you engage the back muscles and shot setup, and that hand goes dead, I want your fingers to just, they don't have to go way back here, but you should see a little motion just right along your cheekbone. I want it to not leave your face. That kid, he's not coachable. right? Immediately tell me, they're not listening. Like, it's their way, not my way. And unfortunately, I think my way works. And then the form, if they have great form. And I want to talk about that because coachability doesn't mean I know everything about archery, because I told you I'm not a tournament archer. I'm a teacher, and I know when a student's a student. If a student's a student, they'll listen. If they listen, they'll learn. If they'll learn, they'll get better. Form is, NASC is this little blueprint of like 11 steps, right? They're pretty basic. They work really well. But I've had kids, and I'm sure some of you guys have too, that have shot with a strong thumb. You know what a strong thumb is? This is the bow. They're literally like this. Their knuckles aren't at a 45-degree angle. They're at a 90-degree angle right off the riser. The bow's out on their thumb. And when they release the arrow, their fingers go like this. And they just point straight to the target. There's no back motion, nothing. And they shoot hornets in the 10 ring. Am I going to walk up to them and say they're doing something wrong? No. I'd say, you are driving the car. I'm in the back seat. And if you don't like it, you can put me in the trunk. I'm not messing with that. Like that, there's nothing there that you want to disturb, except now you got to worry about the mental side of archery, and that's a whole other topic, right? But if their form is repeatable, and I've heard in a few different lectures already today, if you can get them to repeat it, consistently repeat the exact same shot, the arrow's going to go in that same hole. If it's impossible not to. If they have the perfect arrow, that's all, the equipment's correct, and they shoot the exact same way every single time, the arrow has to go in the same hole. Hard to do. But I'm not going to mess with the form unless their arrow group's about like this. If their arrow group's like this, then you pick one thing and you start to work on it, right? So that's what I look for when I make a team. Is their attitude good? Are they coachable? Do they have decent form or tight groups? And then, yeah, eventually you're going to have to get the score. You're going to have to get the score because you're going to have two kids that are really good, right? How many of you had to make a team of 24 before? And you've had over 24, but you can only take one team of 24. So you got, I'm going to say 18 to 19, right? No brainers. It's 19 to 24, and then 25 to 30 are your bubble kids, right? And we're talking, are they coachable? Yes. Are they have good attitude? Yes. Their form solid? Yes. What's their average? 284.6, 284.3. He's out. Right? I mean, we've all been there. Keep it fun. Try not to focus too much on score. And that's, again, it's up to you guys. I know some people like scores. I know you haven't come back and tell you your scores to you, and that's so you can coach them, and that's awesome. I don't ask for scores. I focus on tight groups, which I've heard before. I know you guys focus on tight groups too. How many participants can you have? This is we've got to get into the topic now, right? The question is, how do you coach different age groups? Well, the first question is, how many can you have? Someone just said they shot on like a little space where they can only get like 4 targets. When you started, you said you squeezed in 7, right? So I can get 12 targets comfortably in our space. That's it. So I can have 24 kids shoot at a time. There's some places in our district they can shoot 48 targets at a time. They got 96 kids shooting every hour. I don't know how they do that with coaching, but that's a lot of kids. Do you have the space? Do you have the equipment? Don't book a bunch of kids because you're trying to like buy equipment, right? You're not charging your archers so you can have the funds to go buy more equipment, because if you don't have the equipment to get started, then you've already shot yourself in the foot, right? Start with a number of kids you have the equipment for, the staff for, the time for, because if you don't do that, it's just going to lead to poor decisions, all right? Here we go again, flying around my target. Notice we're getting closer to the middle. So should you separate by division, or should you stay in a large group? So let me just ask, how many of you shoot by division at your practices? High school practices one night, then middle school, then elementary. Okay. How many of you say, oh, we're all going to shoot together? Right, about 50-50 split. All right. Well, I've done both. By division, let's talk about that one first. If you go elementary school, middle school, and high school, and they all have separate practices, this is just my beliefs. You could disagree with me, that's fine. But can you get the space and the time with multiple nights? Can you get the help? So we practice 3 nights a week. And we have about 2.5 to 3 hours each night. And that's actual practice time. We add a half hour to set up and a half hour to tear down, so you can't leave it set up. The benefits of shooting by division allows you to break down the steps and the why you need to do these steps, which is really important for the younger kids. If you only have elementary kids, you can literally spend an hour on how to draw the bow, or how the anchor, to get the 3 anchors placements if you're trying to get more than 1 anchor location, how to aim and when to aim, right? You can probably spend 20 minutes just on stance, which people just don't even they just take it for granted. They don't even focus on it, but you should. But the high school kids probably don't need that because you've been working with them for years, so they may not need that much time. So there are benefits there. It does build a strong team bonding. When I've done both, I've had elementary kids complain, like, this doesn't really feel like a varsity sport because these 4th graders are here. If it's a varsity sport, the practice should just be high school kids, right? So then you have those attitudes that you have to worry about. If it's just the high school, then they're going to feel like a family. They don't have to feel like they're babysitting little kids sometimes. They're not teased, they're not intimidated. Fewer kids at practice usually is more manageable, you know. Usually I run a JV and a varsity, which will put me around 40 high school kids, and then when we get ready to go to nationals, I cut it down to 24. Downfalls. The younger archers don't have any idols. We talk about peer teaching, like having one archer help another archer. That's huge. And you can't really do that. I mean, it's kind of cool. You can have an elementary or 4th grader talk to another 4th grader, hey, I really think you should do this. And that is forcing them to think more about the mechanics of the shot. But if you have a senior walk up to a 4th grader, the 4th grader is really going to pay attention, right? So you don't have that opportunity. Archers do not benefit by watching and helping one another. They usually require a higher need in space and time. And then the older archers could use some reminders as to why. I mean, I just said they don't need the reminders, but you know, there are some high school kids that do need a reminder now and then of the 11 steps. So that's by division. Holy moly, that's hard to read. Sorry about that. By group. So this is when you try to cram them all in one night. In my group, I'm going to have 3 nights a week with the multiple teams. We'll do 2 team rotations. So maybe Mondays I have elementary shooting in middle school, Wednesday I'll have middle school with high school, and then Thursday I'll have elementary with high school. I stay away from Fridays because that's usually when kids want to go to the football games or the basketball games. And I don't want them to miss archery practice. It allows the benefits of this, it allows younger archers to see how to shoot, and it helps out older archers be reminded as to why. You have fewer nights of practices, it doesn't require as many coaches. If they can come for the night, they're going to see 2 teams in one night, which saves them time. Need to get to practice. Scoring can be taught from the older archers to the younger archers. That came up over there. How much time do you need to teach an elementary team how to score? Because it's a disaster the first few times you teach an elementary team to score. So if you have this mixed group, then the first few times elementary scores, they're scoring with a middle school and a high school group that can show them how to do it. And you don't need a coach at every target making sure it's done correctly. Does that make sense? So that's a big benefit. Downfalls. It's a lot of archers. You do lose focus because you know you want to be helping this one high school, and maybe he's one of your top archers. They're shooting 285, and you need him to shoot a 290, 80, 289 average, and he's at 285 because 289 is the magical number now, thanks to Castle. So, if you got, so to get that average, you got to get the points up, right? But now meanwhile, you know you want to work with that one archer, but you got this little kid down here who's like not even standing on the right side of the line. So your attention is pulled away from maybe where you want it to be. But if you have the help, then you just got to divide the time. We actually started to make a list of all the archers under the coaches. So the coaches, like, you're in charge of these 6 archers. My other coach is in charge of these 6 archers. So that way they don't feel overwhelmed. They're just on the line, they got these 6. So if someone's down there like doing something wrong, the other coach should be on that archer, right? It makes it a little bit easier. What else? Let's safe but don't follow space focus issues. You already said that. Archers do not feel connected to their team as much, which I already brought up. Mainly the high school kids have that problem. The elementary kids love shooting with the older kids. And then you can't have certain levels of instruction or certain discussions. My discussions with my high school kids is much more adult than my discussions with my elementary kids, right? I may show some videos when we get into the mental side of archery that the district might even deem inappropriate, right? If like they're very intense videos for these kids to realize like this is how hard I want you to be focused. And they may say a bad word now and then, right? I'm not gonna do that with an elementary group, but with my high school kids, I know they've heard it before. My preacher doesn't like when I do that now. All right. So what would practice look like under each of these? By division, elementary, we basically just focus mainly on 11 steps and just have fun. I mean, that's it. They should be having fun. You know, even in the intro season, when I have the 200 kids that have never shot before, I don't sit there and teach all the 11 steps. I get them on that line, which sounds crazy. I mean, you're probably like, seriously? I get them on the line, I put a bow in the hand, I show them how to knock the arrow safely, and I tell them to shoot it. That's exactly what I tell them. The only thing I show them, the most dangerous part of the sport, is how to knock the arrow safely. I'm like, this is, and we'll do it like for 10 minutes, we're just like, thumb down, up and over, thumb down, up and over, thumb down, up and over. And as soon as I know they can do that safely, they get online, and there's nothing but a target. There's not even a target, it's just a target. I'm like, shoot the target. Seriously? They all look at me, yeah, shoot the target. That was awesome! I mean, darn right it was. That was a great shot. Shoot it. Right? And I mean, that's what we do. That's elementary, right?
Yeah.
And the next couple of practices, maybe we'll get into like, how many fingers should you be grabbing the string with? Not a full fist. Right? Where should you stop drawing? Not past your ears. Yeah. So I mean, we get there eventually, but it's just about having fun. Middle school, it's more of a review of the 11 steps, and then that's when I start to introduce my mental management, and then we get them scoring. And then high school, we really do extensive journaling, a lot of mental management, we review the 11 steps, and then scoring, and obviously competition. They have to compete. And this year, for everyone, I got it. It was miserable, right? At least for us, we didn't even start on time. We were way behind. We didn't start until like January or February. And, you know, we did what we could do, but it was just like in-house competition. There were other schools in our state that ran competitions, but my parents, they were nervous about the whole COVID thing, and I'm like, I'm not gonna sit there and say yes to this. It's just easy for me to say, fine, we're not doing anything. We're just gonna stay right here, and we'll compete right here. And I just split my teams into 2 teams, so I had a high school team of 12 and a high school team of 14, and they shot against each other. That was it. It was blue versus gold every week, right? But they have to compete at the high school level. If they don't compete, they're going to go to a real competition and they're going to choke. By large group, high school captains lead the stretches and the warm-ups. That's huge for us. Get captains involved. I've tried captains at the middle school level. Doesn't work. In elementary, I wouldn't even try. Coaches have a small discussion for each practice. Sometimes I'll show a video. I'm going to steal some of their stuff. They talk after tournaments, you know, which is really important to do. To kind of like break down how the day went. Archers have to have a chance to work on goals and journaling, so we set time aside for that. I usually tell them to get to practice 10 minutes early and write their goals down. And that's a whole other topic, but I'll give you a Cliff Note version of it. So in our journals, they write their team goal at the top, which the captains discuss with the team. They have to have a team goal. Then they'll write a personal season goal. And then they'll do a monthly goal. And then they'll do a daily goal. They write those 4 things down at the top of every page. And the only one that will change is that last one, is their daily goal. Until we get to the next month, then their monthly goal can change, right? And then they'll keep writing those same 4 until they feel like they've reached their daily goal. Their daily goal is to actually feel their shoulder blades engage towards one another as their hand goes dead at the exact same time. And this is just how I coach. You guys can now coach your own way. But for shot setup for me, once they're anchored in, I just tell them they're squeezing the tennis ball between their shoulder blades, and if you're right-handed, it's your right scapular that's doing the squeeze. That's shot setup, right? But the problem is with these bows, if you go into shot setup, you're overdrawing, correct? So if I go back in time when Roy was here, I would say, Roy, your steps 9 and 10 should be the same step, because the release has to happen as soon as shot setup starts. It's the only way you can trigger that bow to go off at the exact same time. So that's, for me, that's one of our archers' hardest things to do. Unless they're a giant 6'4" kid and they can hit the wall in the bow, they don't have a problem. But with the little kids, they can just keep pulling the bow. So I'll tell them, your daily goal is to feel the scapula squeeze and the hand goes dead at the same time. If you're working on that timing aspect of the shot, until you feel like you've accomplished it, you've mastered it, that's your goal every day, right? So we give them time to write about that in their journals. And then we practice. Sometimes it's only a half hour, sometimes it's 45 minutes, depends on how much time we have. We do score sometimes, we do have a lot of fun games. We've hung things from basketball nets, from ropes, and they've been swinging back and forth. Kids shoot moving targets. Don't tell them to ask that. Blank bail. You shoot a lot of blank bail. Someone asked what that is. Hopefully I don't have to explain it again, but you can just shoot at the target. You don't have to worry. You're like, just don't shoot at the center of the target. Take the target out. I just learned that today. Just shoot the target. Right? You're shooting at something that doesn't have a target face on it. We always tear down as a team. My team's spoiled. I get there and set it up for them. You know, I'm a school teacher, so I get out early. And it gives me time to degress my day, you know. That's one 7th grade student that drove me nuts. I'm hanging up the curtain. Throwing targets around. Then I feel better when the team shows up. But they do tear down as a team. We get out of there quick. And then we also have times for questions and concerns. All right? So I've been told, and I shared this, was it 3 years ago when we had this conference last time? I saved this one from the last conference. These are all different games I've played, so if you have those phones and you can take pictures of stuff, it's probably easier. But someone said that all these presentations are going to be sent to you guys, so hopefully you get it. These are some of the games. I'm sure there's 100 other games you can play, but we do things like Buck Hunter, we do Payday, we do NASCAR. There are just different types of games and activities you can play instead of shooting things. NASCAR is one of my favorites because I love NASCAR. Basically, like, I could be shooting against Tim, and if I beat Tim, I now get to move this way down the line, and now I'm shooting against Sally. If I beat Sally, I get to go over here and shoot against John. Meanwhile, if they lost, they have to stay there. And if I go all the way down, all 12 targets, I come back, that's lap 1. Right? And then the question is, how many laps can you get into practice, right? It's just a fun way to score and keep moving. They're not shooting against the same kid every single time. Because, you know, they migrate right to their best friends. And if they're doing that, they're not focused. Relay race is where you line them all up in a straight line. And you give them 3 arrows. They tell me only have 3 arrows in their bow in their hand. They get up the river, they drop the 3 arrows. As soon as they get an arrow in the yellow, they get out of the line. They just take their 2 arrows and they're out. If they miss the yellow, they try again. If they miss the yellow, the 3rd arrow doesn't matter. They just got to shoot it. And then the next kid comes up in line. So the first line that finishes wins the relay race. Knockout, obviously that's score. A knockout with an arrow removal, that's always fun. We'll tell them, you know, shoot 5 arrows. All the arrows that aren't in the 10, you don't get to bring those up the next time. So if a kid shot 4 10s and a 9, the next time they shoot, they only have 4 arrows. Now you're gonna do it again. It's gotta be a 10. They only get maybe 2 out of the 4. Well, now the 3rd round, they're already down to 2 arrows. Meanwhile, some of my other kids still have 5. And you keep doing that until there's 1 win. And it gets really crazy. We'll like put little stickers, sometimes a $1 bill on the target. It's amazing. And then we'll put a $1 bill on the target and shoot at it.
Oh, yeah.
What's that do to the arrow group?
Real shot.
It's unbelievable. Like you practice for an hour, they're like, I take a $1 bill, fold it, so you just see the president's face. For $1? Like there's 20,000 of those waiting for the match.
They shoot really good rectangle groups.
Love it.
Around
We do
around
the
the
candy
dial.
wrappers too. The
Yeah.
one is the candy wrappers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Targets are right there.
I do it with my, that's what I do with
Focus factor, we used to do this, Shelby's just talking about it, but this is kind of crazy. And I haven't gone to the segment, I'm trying, hopefully I get there tomorrow, but line etiquette's huge. And if you're brand new to the sport, or if you just coach an elementary team, I'm begging you, because we never know who we're going to shoot against when you go to these big events. And I'm begging the elementary coaches to teach line etiquette. And there are some high school kids that need line etiquette too, don't get me wrong, but when you get a 24 little elementary kids up there. Mom, did you see that? Woohoo! And you got like your #1 archer who probably has a chance to win it all. Shooting with that person, it's over. It's over. So we were shooting 3D this year at Worlds, and I had a boy clean at 10, and the girl, first time when they go up there, she scores the arrows. 50. Wow, you're really good. He's like, thanks. Next time, 50 again. That's unbelievable. And she's little, like he's a high school. He's like, thanks. He's just trying to be polite. Next time up there, he shoots again. Perfect 50. She's like, you are going to shoot a 300 today.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
And there he went. Ended up with like a 283 or something.
Yeah.
And it was just like, he had it, you know, he was in the zone. And it wasn't, oh, there I go, I just touched your mic, sorry. Well, I broke it. Okay. So, you know, she was just trying to be nice. And I kind of got on my archer a little bit. I'm like, listen, the first time she said, wow, you're really good, that was your opportunity. Your opportunity was to politely say, listen, we're at an archery event, I'm going to do my thing, you're going to do your thing, I'm going to politely ask you, don't talk about score my card, I'll score your card. When we're done, I'll talk to you for a half hour after we're done shooting, but right now, I just need to focus on shooting. And if he would have said that, I would like to think she would have respected it. But I think as coaches, it's our responsibility to try to get that. And another thing that drives me nuts, and I know the NASP rule says as soon as you shot your last arrow, you're immediately to leave the line and go re-rack your bow. You got these kids crammed in there in 5-foot lanes, and I'm at full draw, and this kid finishes and turns like this to walk back, and I'm at full draw. So my kids are taught, so when they're done, they put their bow on their toe, and they look in front of them. If this kid's at full draw, and they glance over their shoulder. If that kid's at full draw, they wait until those shots are shot. And then they go off the line. It's just being polite, right? Let the archer have a chance to shoot the best arrow they can shoot, right? That's all, as coaches, that's all we want. Like when they beat me by 3 points, I think I was the first person to run up and give you a hug. I was so excited for them. We lost. Who cares? I mean, that's why we do what we do. We shot a great score. They shot better than us. Good for them, right? All right, there's other ones. Empty water bottle. You stack the water bottles up, knock them over like bowling pins. Yeah, you figure it out. Golf's a great one, especially if you're dealing with target panic. You ever play golf? Low score wins. Get them away from the bullseye. They want to shoot a 1 and a 2 and a 3 ring. If they miss the 1 ring and they're out of the bullseye, that's a plus 10 stroke penalty. So then you got to start thinking to yourself, do I really want to shoot for the 1 ring? Because I missed the 1 ring, it could be a 10. And that's bad, right? So you find them, they usually shoot for like the 3 or the 4 ring, but low score wins. So it's just a fun way to flip their mind from trying to get a high score. So anyway, those are just some of my games. Zooming back out. All right, and I know I'm going fast, but I want to like save time for questions. And I kind of had this, what's the secret to running a quality practice? And I've already seen it, and I've already talked to people that I've just met today, and I feel the passion in here, but it's connecting with the kids, right? Like if you can connect with your kids, then running practices will be really easy, okay? So build a relationship, have the connections. It doesn't matter if you do a group or if you do individual by divisions. If you can build connections with them in either aspect, you will have success. So these are like all my coaches, and now I get to take myself off that list, which is sweet. So again, get as much help as you can. That's my recommendations. Those are successes. I'm not going to leave it up there because it's ridiculous. But we've had lots of success. And I do want to put this up there in case anyone wants to like take a picture, because I am an open book. If you want to email me, call my cell phone and say, hey, are you that gray-haired dork that talked at this thing? I'll be like, yep, I got a question and I'll answer it. Okay? I don't plan on retiring from teaching because I'm having way too much fun. I love teaching. But I am going to step down from coaching and just kind of let the new seed take over, right? So who has questions? Let's talk. Because listen, 3 years ago, I think it was 2018 when they did the last one, there wasn't enough time for questions. And I know they're having you fill out cards, which is really nice. But when we do this panel discussion at the end, there's not going to be enough time. So I don't even care if it's about this topic. If you have a question about What did we do to get all of that? Ask him. Yes.
So, our program, when we first started, we had a hard time getting enough kids to have a team.
Right.
20, we ended up with 20 kids,
Yep.
to then eventually grew to 160 kids.
Right.
As our numbers grew, our team scores went down, and it's found it too difficult to connect with the kids when you have that many kids. And how do you, I know success can be measured in different ways, but how do you still be competitive with big numbers? And what's the one thing that you would do or recommend for a program that has grown so big that you do?
I'm going to repeat what he said just in case you can't hear what he's asking. So he said when he started, he had low numbers. So did I, right? I think we had 12 or 15 kids total, and we shot outside because they wouldn't even give me gym space because they thought the arrows were going to damage the gym floor. So, but now I'm at the 200. You're at like 120 now, and your question is, or 160. How do you get? It's easy to get 12 kids to be focused and competitive. How do you get 160 kids to stay focused and competitive? You want to know the answer? You're not. You're not going to get 160 kids to stay focused. You're going to give those 160 kids an opportunity to feel like they're part of a family, right? You're going to give 160 of those kids an opportunity to feel like you care about them and you love them like your own. And if you have that relationship, some of those 160 kids are going to be absolute monsters and competitors, not only for themselves, but for you and the coaching staff. And I'm going to go back to like the coaching staff. I know you're retiring too. How many are you leaving behind? Like how many guys are going to be running the ship now that you're not there?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
4 to 6.
4 to 6 coaches. 160 kids with 4 to 6 coaches, in my opinion, is not enough help. I'm just being honest with you. I would try to get to 8 to 10. And I'm only saying that because they can focus on this group of kids. And those kids feel like they spent an hour of practice and had someone caring about what they were doing. If you have 160 kids and only 5 coaches, there's no way you can get to all of them. So those kids are going to go home and they're going to say, honey, how was archery practice? I don't know. Shot for an hour, but no one said anything to me. I guess okay. And they've lost the fun. Or you have to decide, you have team activities, which that's awesome what these guys do. They do like escape rooms. Like you got to do something outside the box to make them feel like a family. But then when you're at practice, you know who your top archers are. If you don't have enough help and you want to stay competitive, you're going to have to focus on your top competitors. But try not to lose that family feeling of all the other kids by doing other stuff besides just archery. Because you're not going to get to them at practice. You just can't do it. That's just my advice. Yes?
You said something about we have an opportunity to shoot in the gym, but we're fearful of it because we didn't know if it would damage the floor, or we thought about do we need to get it.
Well, that was just that was my district's thought at first when I first showed them the bows and the 5 targets they sent me. My principal was like, yeah, I know I said yes to this, but the PE teacher's worried that you're going to shoot holes in their wood floor. But it's
Scratch on it.
No, not a bit.
no, the bevel tip on the arrow leaves absolutely no mark.
Yeah, unless you shoot it
No.
straight down, you're not going to do it.
No. I was actually, we had more fun when we shoot in the parking lot because then they spark. We call them Sparkies. Not good for the arrow, but that's okay. Yeah. Yeah, you're. I know my eyes are crazy.
For the idea of putting a tennis ball to squeeze some ways together. Why?
You want me to talk about that?
Well, I want to know more about maybe kinesthetic tools that you might use. I take tape and put it on the floor when I'm training stance, put your feet on the tape.
Right.
So, are there other kinesthetic tools that you can use? Because there's no replacement for that kinesthetic awareness.
So there aren't any. The only tool I would say I use. I know everyone has heard of those string bow because you have to use them to get certified, and they're awesome tools. My issue with a string bow is a string bow shoots like a compound. Because you set your draw length with a string bow, so if you have a short little draw length, it stops, right? So you can really like push and pull and drive it into the target with a string bow. These bows don't shoot like that, right? They're endless draw up to 30 inches. So we use bands, TheraBands, and I get the lightest poundage you can get, little tubular physical therapy bands. Don't get the red because they'll whack their hands and they'll be all sore on the back of the side of the hand. We use like the yellow, it's really like lightweight. But all I'll have them do, and they don't even shoot with the bands, they pull the bands up, they come to full draw, they get their 3 anchor points in, and then I tell them that I want them to literally hang on to the band, right? And I want them to engage their right if they're right-handed, their right scapula to their spine. And when they do that, what's their hand do? Goes across their cheek, right? And I'll say, now bring it back to your anchor. Squeeze the tennis ball. Bring it back to your anchor. Squeeze the tennis ball. Bring it back. So they feel what the shoulder blades should be doing. That's just the first step. The next step is now getting the back of the hand to go dead. As soon as they start that engagement, literally, like as soon as they're happy with their aim, it's floating, they put a little pressure in, they pin it, and as soon as they engage it, poof, the hand goes dead. And it never leaves their face. And I just use the tennis ball and the shoulder blades so they can, like, as they're feeling it, they're visualizing them doing it. I don't really like put a tennis ball. I don't duct tape a tennis ball to their back. It really hurt me to take it off. Good question. And again, this is just how I coach. If you want a strong thumb and point to the target, go for it. If it makes your arms or shoot 10s, then do that. Yeah, any other questions? Yes?
So, in terms of your tryouts and the whole coachability, do you have is your word the Lord? You know,
It has been, but it probably isn't anymore.
Is there like a rubric, or like do any parents ever, how do you exactly, is it kind of like flowy, like we know this kid's not coachable?
So we do have a parent meeting, and I tell them exactly what the parameters are to make the team. And I'm not trying to be like pompous, but if I say yes, he's on the team, no, he's not on the team, then that's just the way it's going to go. We do have all the coaches will come around at tryouts, and they will write down everything they see good and everything they see bad about all the archers that are there. And again, they're assigned this group of 6, right? So they don't have to get to everybody. And that way, if a parent calls and says, well, they didn't make the team this year, can you tell me what they need to work on?
Right.
And I don't tell them right away. I'm like, well, I can actually tell you, you know, his attitude's awesome. He's very coachable. His stance was good. He just needs a little more time. So, you know, I want to come back next intro season with the elementary group, even though, you know, he did tryouts this year. I want to come back. I think we can work more with him in the intro season, and we're going to work more on his form. He's plucking the string pretty bad. He's dropping his arm. We clean those 2 things up. I think he'll make the team next year. But at least you have that document to give the parents feedback and the archers feedback, because the high school kids will call you, why didn't I make the team? And you just have an honest conversation with them.
Yeah.
But I do put all the coaches together, and it gets nasty. You know, I'll have half my staff saying yes, half my staff saying no, and that's when I just say yes or no. We move on to the next kid.
And then one more.
Yeah.
About the coaches that you say, like, you give them, say, 6 kids or whatever. Do you rotate those coaches to a new group, or do they keep with that same group of kids all season, or for a month, or like you said, like you're going to focus only on these 6 kids at practice?
Yep, we try to keep it for a little while. I wouldn't say the whole season. It's not monthly either. And there's some kids that really don't need much help. Like, who did we just come from? I don't remember.
Chelsea.
Yeah, Chelsea. And she had a great idea. She has a whiteboard. I don't know if you're in for that session, but she writes down all the 11 steps on a whiteboard and puts the kid's name right under that shot setup. Rah! And the kid walks in and is like, oh, my shot setup's not good. And they don't like seeing their name up there. They got to work. They know, and the kids know what they're working on. The coaches come in and know what they're working on. If he's working on shot setup, then you probably shouldn't be working on follow through, because he's got to fix shot setup first before you can get the follow through. So it just helps the coaches realize where they're at with the form sequence, and that way the kid he's not overwhelmed, because now this coach is telling me I'm dropping my ball arm. Meanwhile, he hasn't fixed his shot setup. And now he's like, I'm doing everything wrong. I quit. He breaks it forward. Any other questions? Lou! Oh, thanks. I thought you just had a question. I was all excited for a second. I was going to ask you when we're going for barbecue. Yeah.
So you talked about you teach 3 acre spots. What are those 3 acre points?
Well, they're a little different than his, because I can't get everyone to get the string to their nose. But we do put finger in the corner of their mouth, and I do try to encourage a nail into a certain tooth or gap of a tooth, because the lip can move. So they're in here, but then they can get their fingernail like into 2 teeth. And then they do lock their thumb, and it goes behind the jawbone if their hand's big enough, or under their jaw. And the other one for me is the top of the elbow, is right under the cheekbone. So they're here, here, and here. If the string happens to touch their nose, hallelujah, right? But, you know, some kids, I feel like I have to contort their face to get it there. Like I go like this. And they're like, that's not very comfortable. But, you know, his daughter, it was perfect for Shelby. She was just like, and it just sat right there. But yeah, I like the NAS just talks about hooking the jaw or hooking the corner of your mouth. That's great. But I use the analogy, if I told you to put a dot on a piece of paper and told you to start at the dot and draw a perfect circle, it'd be really hard to draw a perfect circle. But if I put a bunch of dots in a circle pattern and said draw a perfect circle, you could connect the dots, right? So the more spots you have, the easier it is to make perfect. So with an anchor point, if you can add 3, 4, I don't know how many possibilities there are. Some kids wear baseball caps. Maybe they get the string to touch the bill of their cap. I have no idea, right? I know for my hunting bow, I got a little knot on my string that touches my nose. I got a kisser button, and I still lock my release behind my jawbone. So I have a lot of things, and a peep sight. So I mean, I got a lot of things that know my head is lined up. So when I send the arrow into the meat factory, I don't wound the thing. I actually get to eat it. So, any other questions?
I got another one.
Yes, sir.
How often do you guys play games?
Oh, as much as possible. Yeah, as much as possible. Yeah, I would say, you know, when we do mixed groups and I have them coming twice a week, one practice will be like, we'll shoot half the time on the rings, half the time on the animals, and then the other practice of the week will just be shootouts and NASCAR. I mean, they're still scoring, it's still competitive, as long as they're competitive games, but they have to have fun. If it's just ring, score, ring, score, ring, score, ring, score, it's burnout. I think it's burnout.
Well, it's extremely competitive to be at that level, so that's what I was
Right.
wondering.
Yeah.
You have to have a certain amount of
And like you
practice.
said, like I'll have the Justin Millers, who's just like, he'll go home and shoot 200 arrows after practice. That's just how he is. And every practice, he's like, Coach, I just want to score. I'll go down there and score. I don't care. He's going to shoot a 298 or a 299, most likely. Yep, there he goes. You know, it's just how he's built. But that's very rare. So.